populations would be hard working. They would be achieving all their lives' desires. For us, most of our members and most of our business people complain about this, that the infrastructure for trade, even though we have all these treaties, all these protocols and agreements, have been very challenging for Gambia. Whenever they want to cross with goods, they are stopped, they are inspected. Let us be very clear. Every country has the sovereign right to inspect and check anything that is going into your territory, especially if at all it is not going to pay any duty or any taxes there. But we should also remember that we are part of a larger community, that is the ECOWAS community. And the reason why we have these protocols and the whole arrangement of ECOWAS, which is more than 35 years old now, is to make sure that our people are connected. And after all, like you said, if at all it was not for colonialism, we are practically the same people. And we must never forget that. We must try as much as possible to make sure that we get value for money, we make sure that our economies are competitive, we make sure that our institutions are competitive. For us, this is the approach, and this is what we have been trying to impress on our counterpart in Senegal. I am sure at the bilateral level, the Gambia government is doing everything possible. The establishment of the Senegalo-Gambian Secretariat is a testimony, and the executive secretary of that secretariat is a Senegalese.
Doudou Salah Diop.
Yeah, Doudou Salah Diop. And I understand he was a guest on the program.
He was my guest.
And you know, all of this for me means that really the Gambia government, under the leadership of His Excellency, Chief Professor Dr. Alhaji Yaya Jammeh, is very committed to not only regional integration, but African Union. And we start with our economies. If we have a custom union, if we have a free trade area, you know, if your port is not competitive, people will have other ports to go to and get their goods and products from.
Very well, so you struck the chord there, talking about African integration. It's the best practice in South Africa, among the SADC countries. You look at Kenya and Uganda, which is landlocked. Transit of goods is one of the best practices there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you look how far South Africa is on the map, but it is able to export a huge amount of goods into Southern Africa as a region, and to some extent into East Africa. I mean, I understand there is even a real link between Zanzibar and what is it called? And not Zanzibar, Tanzania. and
well, you're right, formerly Zanzibar.
Yeah, yes, Tanzania and this place, Zambia, Zambia, you know, and Malawi. You know, they have very good infrastructure for trade. Because if you are landlocked, it's always important and interesting commercially for those that have access to the port. So really, I think beyond the political commitment and speeches, there needs also to be an economic infrastructure that is going to enable West Africa, with this huge population, with these huge resources, to come together and promote not only trade integration, but real integration of the economies. That way, I think it doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. As long as you are productive and competitive and efficient, you will be able to deliver to the people. Because after all, that's what we are talking about. Africa is now 1 billion people. I mean, internally as a market, it can compete with China, with India, with any other part of the world. It's about time that we take away some of these man-made constraints or barriers between the people as well as between businesses.
The ISRTS, the Interstate Road Transport of Goods, takes effect on the 17th of this month.
Of July, yes.
How prepared are you?
Absolutely. We have been prepared last year. We've been prepared 3 months ago. Really, we cannot wait for this to happen, because we think that by demonstrating this kind of cooperation and by demonstrating this commitment to the ECOWAS obligations, we are going some way in reminding everyone that integration is the only future that is going to work.
Does that also include that people have started registering with the GCCI?
Yes, yes, we have started. I mean, we have even had a space designated to GCCI office at the port, so that, you know, the transaction can be facilitated. Because, as you know, Kerjula is in the West Coast region, and we don't want to bother the businesses to come all the way to do the registration. But our office space is there at the port, closer to the action, closer to the operators, the port and GRA, so that there would be no information barriers between these stakeholders in this scheme. And we are hoping that everybody who is listening to this program, everybody who's been reading the papers would see that we are ready. We have the plates, we have the seals, we have the books. All of these things are ready. Once you are registered under the scheme, we would give you all the facilitation, all the information that you need.
You've just mentioned Kerjula, and Kerjula, if you do not know, is the headquarters of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. All right, let me, before I move on to the next segment of our discussion, Mami, let us look at now, enlighten me on goods produced by this country. Let's say 80% in its entirety has been produced locally here. For instance, let me take agricultural products, and I want to send my agricultural products to probably Mali. What do I go through?
Again, ECOWAS has been very futuristic in its designs. It has what is known as the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. Because it is an economic community, if you produce something in the Gambia and it is designated by ECOWAS as a product of the Gambia, you don't have to pay any duty getting into any ECOWAS country. What this means is that your goods or your products would be very attractive in any other country, as long as, you know, it is of the right quality and the market demands it or needs it. I mean, you would see these ganilas from Mali and, you know, these chup. The women generally are very active in cross-border trade, and they do so because in ECOWAS, if at all you have something coming from Gambia to Senegal to Mali, you don't have to pay duty. So the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, alongside the ISRT, have come together to help businesses operate as effectively and as competitively as possible, whether they are in Banjul or in Burkina Faso.
Okay. All of a sudden, the Dalasi gains an upper hand now. The foreign currency issue becomes a little bit a thing of the past. But prices continue to soar. Late this week, before Ramadan took off, papers were rife with goods are going high, whilst the Dalasi has been able to remain stable now. Why is this so, and what is the GCCI doing? Or isn't it under your purview to try to see how best you can help to make sure that goods do not start to skyrocket?
Malik, this is a very important issue, not only because we are in Ramadan, but for us, price stability is a very necessary condition for our own development. And as long as we continue to import the bulk of our goods from outside, we would have these headwinds on our currency. But the right authority really is the central bank, who is the custodian of monetary policy of the Gambia. Some of our members are in the import-export business, and they are even in the forex business. But the vast majority of importers of basic commodities are either inactive members of the chamber, or they are completely not members. Ministry of Trade with these groups. We have had very fruitful, very successful meetings with the Minister of Trade, then Mr. Keba Toure, and the major food importers and other businesses, including banks and other people dealing with forex. So there are many factors to the increase in prices. But what we say to people is that, you know, at one point I am either a consumer or I am a seller or buyer of goods. So